Let's just jump right in, guys. Today, we're stepping into a classic narrative of inescapable dread. I mean, imagine being caught in a relentless, howling storm, completely losing your way, and actually finding shelter in a place where the laws of reality simply do not apply. It's the ultimate setup for a horror story, right? So, let's walk through this chilling nightmare together. The nightmare kicks off with our protagonist, Raghu. He's caught out on his bicycle in this sudden, violently intense rainstorm. He's miles away from his destination, Kusumpur, and the weather just turns absolutely apocalyptic. We're talking fierce lightning, blinding rain, the whole shebang. It gets so bad that he literally cries out, "Oh God, stop this storm, protect me." It perfectly captures that primal vulnerability of being entirely at the mercy of nature. The storm physically forces him off his bike, effectively stripping away his mobility. So now he's on foot, dragging this heavy bike through thick mud, which plunges us right into the intense isolation that sets the stage for everything that's about to happen.
Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The Storm and Lost Path. A Wrong Turn in the Dark. So as Raghu is trudging through all this thick mud, the rain finally eases up. But then, he realizes a terrifying truth. He took a wrong turn in the pitch dark. He is completely, hopelessly lost on this unfamiliar road. And just as that deep panic starts to set in, a voice cuts right through the misty darkness, and this shadowy figure emerges. This is Ratan. Now, Ratan seems kind of helpful at first, but let's be real, his sudden, quiet appearance out of the dead of night is an immediate, massive red flag. And Ratan's words, they're practically designed to trap him. He says, "You won't be able to go, the road to Kusumpur is closed." Supposedly, a fallen tree blocked the path. That single sentence physically and psychologically boxes Raghu right in. The pacing of the story here deliberately slows way down, kind of mimicking Raghu's own horrifying realization that his one and only escape route just vanished into the shadows. He has literally no choice but to follow this mysterious stranger.
Moving on to part 2, the mysterious tea stall. A trap is set.
Right, so Ratan guides Raghu to his isolated tea stall, which is just this tiny hut beneath a massive gabe tree. And the moment they arrive, the environment takes on this incredibly surreal quality. Raghu is hyper-aware of this bag full of cash he's carrying, clutching it so tightly to his chest while sitting on a little bamboo stool. It's a great detail because it adds this layer of mundane anxiety, the fear of just being mugged? And that distracts Raghu just enough from the supernatural threat that is slowly, quietly closing its jaws around him. Inside the hut, something is deeply, deeply wrong. And this brilliantly illustrates the architecture of paranoia building up. First off, despite the damp, heavy rain outside, Raghu smells burnt flesh in the air. Like, where's that coming from? Second, he looks at Ratan's hurricane lantern, and the flame is completely still. It's totally defying the howling wind and raging storm outside. It's as if the hut exists entirely outside of normal physics. These incremental clues start screaming at Raghu that he is trapped in something deeply unnatural. Which brings us to part 3. Terrifying night, strange signs. The horror deepens. The pacing slows down to an agonizing crawl as the night wears on. Ratan suggests Raghu just crash there for the night and calls out to his wife, Jumar, to bring him some pan, a traditional beetle-leafed preparation. The atmosphere here is thick with this intense, suffocating dread. As Jumar walks over with the pan, the dead silence is broken only by the sound of her anklets. Raghu catches this silent, really sinister exchange of glances between her and Ratan, and his heart starts hammering. And then, the smell of raw blood. As Raghu reaches out with these trembling hands to take the pan, that metallic, sickening scent just hits him like a wall. Suddenly, a violent gust of wind blows Chumar's veil aside. What Raghu sees completely freezes the blood in his veins. There is a deep, bleeding slit right across her throat, with a thin stream of blood flowing down. Before his brain can even begin to process this horrifying image, she quickly fixes her veil and, literally in the blink of an eye, completely vanishes. Gone. He's left entirely alone in the room, mechanically chewing the pan, absolutely paralyzed by fear.
Completely exhausted, Raghu somehow manages to drift into this fitful sleep, only to be jolted awake by a blood-curdling scream echoing through the night. He peers out into the darkness and sees a man hanging from a rope, violently struggling just an arm's length away. But a second later, he blinks, and it's gone. There's nothing there but an empty bamboo platform. It's that terrifying realization of an unreliable reality. His own senses are completely betraying him.
Let's look at part 4. Betrayal and horrifying revenge, a story from the past.
So, sweating, terrified, and just desperate for some kind of anchor to reality, Raghu stumbles outside and actually finds Ratan sitting calmly on that very same bamboo platform. Ratan completely dismisses Raghu's terror. He just casually waves it off, saying it was just a bad dream brought on by the summer heat. And to calm him down, Ratan offers to tell him a story that took place exactly 3 years ago. Let's move through this and see how this builds, because Ratan's story maps out a fateful, bloody timeline. It goes like this. A tea seller, deeply in love with his beautiful new wife, goes to the market but comes back early because of a looming storm. At dusk, he looks through his window and makes a devastating discovery. He catches his wife in bed with a frequent customer named Shankar. The sequence then escalates with just brutal urgency. That night, in a blind, jealous rage, the husband slashes his wife's throat. Late at night, he drags Shankar outside and hangs him from the bamboo roof. Finally, at midnight, completely consumed by grief and madness, he throws his burning lantern onto his wife's body. A lightning strike ignites the fatal fire, burning the hut and the husband to ashes.
And that leads right into part 5, the true face of terror, morning revelations. As Ratan finishes this horrifying tale, Raghu is just sitting there in a deep trance of pure terror. But thankfully, morning finally breaks. Raghu hastily mutters his excuses to the empty doorway and gets the heck out of there on his bicycle, absolutely desperate to leave this nightmare in the dust. But a few miles down the road, his heart just drops into his stomach. In his sheer panic to escape, he realizes he left his bag of money behind. No way, right? He has absolutely no choice but to turn his bike around and go back to that cursed spot. But when he returns, the sheltering tea stall he slept in, it's gone. In its place, under the harsh, clear light of day, he finds absolutely nothing but the charred, 3-year-old ruins of a burned-down structure. This is the ultimate shock for Raghu. The horrifying reality finally sets in. Ratan's story? It wasn't a story at all. It was a ghost's confession. Raghu had spent the entire night trapped in a spectral replay of a triple murder.
So as Raghu stands there, completely paralyzed by these charred remains, trying to comprehend the impossible, we get the narrative's final, devastating jump scare. From right behind him, a cold, ghostly voice whispers, "Are you looking for this?" Raghu spins around. A violent gust of wind rips away a veil to reveal Jumar's terrifying, blood-soaked face, her neck still bearing that fatal, gaping wound. That sickening smell of raw blood comes rushing back, and there, right in her hands, she is holding his bag of money.
The sheer, concentrated terror of this impossible sight breaks Raghu completely. He actually loses consciousness, collapsing right there on the desolate road next to his bicycle, totally overwhelmed by the realization of exactly who and what he spent the night with. He's just left there in the dirt, which leaves us with one final, incredibly chilling question. Did Raghu truly ever escape that night, and who or what has that bag of money now? Think about that for a second. Stay curious, guys, and remember, always question what you see in the dark.